Okay, so with that, um, with that, welcome everyone to the grand finals of SASDO 2021. Congratulations to both teams for making it thus far. On team government, we have team PEP A. On team opposition, we have Nation of Texas. My name is Atlas. I'm going to be the chair for this round. Paneling with me is Joey Wong as well as Andrew Lee. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome the first government speaker to open the case for team government. Here.
Whoops, I forgot to unmute. Sorry. We all know what a competitive debate is. We're all in the middle of one right now. So why would we as government oppose a competitive debate? Several reasons. Firstly, time investment. Debate competitions take up a lot of time. For example, the Harvard debate competition that took place a couple of weeks ago literally took place at midnight for debaters in China due to conflicts in timing. In time zones, right? I saw nothing but the screams of the sleep deprived on my WeChat Moments post on the bus to school. And we believe that fundamentally, because of this, because of the potential of time zone differences, and simply because of the fact that most debates will oftentimes take over an hour to even finish one, we think that debate competitions will take up a large portion of students' time, which we don't think that they really have, right? We also believe that preparing for a debate is also very time consuming. Debates which require evidence need a heavy amount of preparation for you to even do remotely well in them. For example, public forum, which is notorious for literally just being a competition of who has the better internet, and debates which don't require evidence, such as BP and World Schools, still basically require evidence due to specific knowledge about news happening regarding certain motions, like often making the difference between whether a team wins or loses. So you're still oftentimes forced to look at news, forced to scour the internet for recent news, etc. We don't think that that's really good for students, especially the ones at our age who still have to worry about college applications or AP seminar stuff, right? Now, secondly, min-maxing. Min-maxing is a term that was coined in video games, but I feel can apply pretty well here. It's essentially used to address when something which used to become fun becomes so optimized to the degree that the fun has been squeezed out of it. This happens to a lot of party games or other various sports. And while it is true that competitive things can be fun, this optimization is not. And debate is a clear example of why optimization, especially here, extreme optimization in debate is never fun. For example, you can't run impacts like the world will literally die, even though it's more funny because the opposition will immediately hit you with decreased wealth cap and win, right? And we think that the inability to casually debate, to make casual, more stupid arguments, makes competitive debate far less fun compared to casual, right? We also think that the emotional investment into some debates often makes debates far more personal. We believe that the most fun moments of debate aren't the moments where debaters are stretching out their heart and mind, thinking about how an increase in funding for video games leads to a decrease in the wealth gap and the collapse of the patriarchy. We believe that the most fun moments are those when you're able to jump between topic to topic, endlessly arguing about something really, really dumb, but still having a blast of a time and doing so, right? And to tie this to an actual impact, children in Africa can't debate because they're unable to attain all the resources that debate requires, etc. News, stories, coaches. I hope that's enough of a substantial impact to make this point stand. Now, third point, self-confidence. We believe that this debates at its core are essentially glorified arguments, right? Now, what happens when you lose an argument? You feel like you've lost intellectually, which is extremely detrimental to your own self-esteem and self-confidence, right? This effect is even worse if you have performed well in debate championships prior, right? You'd feel like you're washed up, you're rusty, and you feel very, very shameful of yourself. In short, you'd feel like you suck. And this is coming from someone who has won a cumulative count of one debate competition total, with that being China Open against third graders in BP. This crash is absolutely devastating to the mindset of debaters, right? This crash changes your actions and attitudes, right? This makes people not have an intent to debate after suffering a crippling defeat after a win, right? This makes them feel like they have nothing to gain from continuing debating. This makes them feel like they're really bad at debating, right? I've lost in desire to debate after I suffered losses in Nanjing and SBSDC, etc. And the only thing which still keeps me going to LO is that 12 RMB McDonald's meal with a double cheeseburger and a pineapple pie, and my mom forced me to. Now, fourthly, the focus on competitiveness is bad. Look, we get that competitive debate has its place in the world. We believe that both competitive debate and casual debate should be equally as important. But currently, when people think of debates, people only think of those hard competitions. People only think of SBSDC. People only think of those BP competitions. People only think of like European, etc. People don't think about those casual arguments you'd have with your family at the dinner table, or those stupid arguments you have with your like siblings on the car or something, right? We think that competition is good, but competitiveness being dominant is bad. Competitive debates in particular may grant that dopamine rush of beating a really tough opponent, but it's also very heavily exhausting on a mind and mouth. We also believe that, frankly, competitive debate is far more harder to improve at than other competitive natures, simply due to the fact that debate tests your mental capabilities and strength, whereas a lot of other competitive sports simply test your physical capabilities, such as soccer, which just requires you to work out more, right? This means a lot of times debates will oftentimes just come down to how mentally mature are you, and how much did you read about like this motion in the news. So overall, why do we regret the rise of competitive debate? Firstly, the time investment. We believe that the amount of time that competitive debating takes up is detrimental to a lot of students. Secondly, min-maxing. We believe that the rise of competitive debate has squeezed out the fun in debate and made debate a far more serious sport than it needs to be. Thirdly, we believe that the self-confidence detriments that debates bring is extremely harmful to individuals who suffer losses during debates. Fourthly, we believe that the dominantness of competitiveness is what we are opposing. We believe that for the sake of like the health of debaters and for the sake of like more fun in debating, we regret the rise in competitive debates. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the first government speaker for that speech. Now I'd like to invite the first opposition speaker to open the case for team opposition. Hear, hear.
Am I audible? Judge, competitive debating is a sport that brought thousands of individuals together over the past and for the entire existence of competitive debating as a sport. There are so many benefits they provide for debaters, so many benefits they provide to organizations that allow students to learn debate, and all being a very accessible sport for all people around the world. So because of those reasons, we strongly oppose regretting competitive debate as a whole. So for first contention coming from opposition is going to be talking about the necessary preparation going into a debate. So we think that because that debate is oftentimes heavily focused on the status quo and debating issues in our current global world, we believe that it creates a high amount of traction for global events. So debate is a sport that requires extensive and heavy background knowledge, right? So in public forum, you need to do research. In Lincoln Douglas, you need to have facts, statistics, research, and parliamentary just requires you to have a crap ton of background knowledge. Now, all of these things we believe is a very good thing, unlike what the opponents believe, right? So first of all, we believe that this inspires younger debaters, especially those who are just starting off with public forum, to participate and learn about global events, right? It actually gives them a reason to read CNN or read Fox News, right? Unlike a world where debate is actively discouraged, you see people there's no incentive for young children to become global citizens who mind their current situation that they live in. And we believe that it's very beneficial for young children at a very young age to learn about the implications of real world events. And we believe that it's very exclusive to having debates, which can actually incentivize a large portion of people. Or else without debate, you would have a society that depends on a child's interest in global events. And let's be honest, not many children really want to read world news, right? Unless they have a reason to, and they have to win something they have to read the news in order to win something. We believe that's a very good incentive. And we believe this is why one of the reasons competitive debate is actually very good. And secondly is the idea of the benefits that debate could potentially bring. So first of all, I think there's two main people that are associated with competitive debate. So number one, you have the debaters and the universities or organizations that take these students to debate. And secondly, you have the individuals who organize the tournaments. So first of all, I think organizing tournaments has many benefits for all parties involved. One of them is that firstly, now the person who organized the debate has a lot of networking and can further on expand in debate competitions, which we believe is actually a very good source of revenue, whether for the host of debaters or like for people just looking for a part-time job who want to judge a debate, right? Like in many debates in China, Shanghai as well, like you see SPSDC and SSDA, where they hire judges from all around Shanghai who's willing to take a weekend off and like make some money like in exchange for their judging services, which we believe is a good deal, right? Because they're making money and so is the organization hosting the debate tournament. But I think more so like debate also benefits the students, right? So like public speaking skills, having confidence in yourself and like logical reasoning as well as researching. We believe that all of these are benefits, although not exclusive to debate, is like very hyper focused and compacted into one activity with competitive debating. So essentially, we believe that like competitive debating brings many benefits. And we also think that it's a good way for universities or like large debate organizations to be competitive with each other. So for example, in Shanghai, there are many like debate organizations like Dialogy and Learning Leaders. And like the fact that competitive debate exists allows these organizations to not only thrive, but also allows these organizations to push each other, right? Because by the very nature of competitiveness, like individuals are more incented to be better within a debate because they're like they feel better when they beat an opponent. And we believe that competitive debate is something that brings this. Now on to our final contention in today's debate, and we're going to discuss the idea of like debates accessibility. So government team comes up here and tells the judge that, okay, African children can't participate in debate. So first of all, a few things. So we believe that this isn't, first of all, like debating is like an extracurricular activity, right? Like obviously when things like very basic human resources aren't accessible, like debating doesn't take like priority, right? And now obviously, so I think we can focus this debate on like countries that actually have where children are able to access debate. So what do I mean by this, right? Debate isn't like a conventional sport. So like if you're like, let's say you were taking up a sport like swimming, you would need to hire a swim coach, and then you would need that swim coach to be good for you to be very competitive in swimming. However, in debate, all you really need to do is research and like do a lot of research and preparation, and you can be do very well in debate. That's a lot more accessible than, let's say, swimming, which requires heavy and intensive training. We can illustrate this with an example, right? Like before the civil rights movement in the USA, we see a lot of Black universities compete against white universities in debate. Although the Black universities like significantly lack funding in comparison to the like majority white universities, they were still able to actually compete and actually beat them in debate tournaments because of the fact that debate isn't one that's extremely like resource intensive. Moving on to a rebuttal to their point. So they tell you that time investment is bad. So first of all, I don't think they've successfully proven why it's inherently bad. Like all of the time and effort you're putting in means that you're learning about global events. You're learning about how things work. Like I remember like for the European tournament where I had to prepare for a motion, and I ended up learning a lot about the European Union, which I was able to apply to my classes at school. So like it's very intersectional and cross as well. So we believe that the opponents have not shown you why it's inherently bad. They tell you time zones, and all right, like that's true, but obviously like time zones are only like, it's only for 2 days, the debate tournament, but the knowledge you gain from that is like very accessible to you for, I don't know, years to come, right? So, and for the above reasons, so proud to oppose.
I'd like to thank the first opposition speaker for that speech. Now I'd like to invite the second government speaker to continue the case for team government. Hear, hear.
All right. We think that the debate isn't about whether debate is good or not, but about whether competitive debate is preferred over casual debate, right? When we look at the comparison between casual and competitive debate, we see that competitive debate is extremely serious and has rules and restrictions, whether you're whether you're able to say certain things, right? We think that this is extremely anxiety inducing, right? This also requires absolute commitment from all the debaters and even all the organizers, right? We think that this not only affects the ability for them to actually express and show their true abilities, this also is extremely emotionally and physically draining. But when we look at the other side and look at casual debating, right, we see that casual debating is a very chill and relaxed, but it still practices the skills like improvisation, the imagination, or ability to be able to present in front of an audience, right? We think that this also prevents things like panic attacks, skills like panic attacks, anxiety, and emotional and physical harm that comes from competitive debating, right? We think that whether you're emotionally damaged by your 5 losses out of 5 matches or physically damaged from the 4 to 5 hours of sleep, we think that competitions like NSDA or WSDC harms individuals substantially, right? We think then again, imagine you having to go home and debate your parents again on why you didn't break in this competition again, or elaborately explaining to your friends why your speaks were so low for this competition. We think that whether it's debating your parents again or explaining to your friends, it's extremely emotionally draining, and it hurts your ego on a substantial level as well. But moving on to the rebuttals, right? The opposition team brings to you a few arguments, right? They first tell you that this encourages children to understand or learn about facts or current events that is happening in our society, right? But we think that this is not really mutually exclusive, because without competitive debating, things like classes still exist, and we think that casual debates are still able to motivate people to research and understand current events. We think that learning these things will still happen, whether it's from like homework assigned from your coaches or just originating from classes and your fellow coaches. We think that children understanding current events will still happen in our world, right? Then they also tell you another benefit of competitive debating is that debate organizers get revenue, right? We think that if we look at the example of SASDO, I won't imagine that Atlas earned a fortune from this competition. Neither did the judges earn a lot of money from this competition. We think that not only that, the organizers is also emotionally drained from organizing this event. We think that they're emotionally drained from having to wake up so early and organizing this such a huge event. We think that this, at the end of the day, the debate organizers are not really benefited from this competition, right? Third of all, they also tell you fundamentally brings a lot of practical benefits to children, right? But when we look at the status quo, we see that we have to ask the question: why are sports like basketball and soccer and PE mandatory, while things like debate isn't mandatory, right? Isn't mandatory in schools, right? We think that the answer to this question is that debate oftentimes requires much more skills and much more natural skills, and much more skills that requires that is extremely hard to actually train, right? Because when we look at this side, the other side, where basketball and soccer, all you have to do is go to trainings and try to train specific physical traits. But on the other hand, debate is extremely hard to train because they're also related to your mental state, right? Whether you have panic attacks while giving a speech, whether you have anxiety while you prepare for a debate, right? We think that these things are extremely hard to train compared to things like basketball and soccer, right? This is why we think that competitive debating is extremely hard to prevent things like anxiety or panic attacks, right? At the end of the day, we think that this ultimately does not benefit the children, because they oftentimes are forced into these situations, whether because of their parents or their coaches, and they're forced into these situations and having to experience substantial mental draining and physical draining. We think that this, at the end of the day, causes extremely huge long-term effects to these children as well, right? We think that as a long-term effect, these children would also suffer from trauma from debate competitions and have no further motivation to attend anything like this or to actually give any speeches in the future. We think that this long-term effect also affects these children on a very substantial level, right? But the main question in today's debate is the comparison between competitive and casual debating. So what has the government team told you, right? We told you that competitive debating is extremely harmful to children on a short term, which means that you're either mentally or physically drained, but it's also on on a long term where you're probably going to experience trauma from giving any public speeches or public speaking events. But also we tell you that casual debates also bring you the benefits that the opposition team tells you that competitive debate brings you. We tell you that not only it prevents things like panic attacks or anxiety and emotional and physical harm, it also brings to you the benefits of, for example, learning these current events or learning a specific knowledge that the competitive debating brings to you, right? Because of how these benefits are not mutually exclusive, but the harms are mutually exclusive on their side, we think that at the end of the day, we regret the rise of competitive debating, and we obviously prefer casual debating. We are so proud to propose. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the second government speaker for reminding all of the judges that I am not paying them, and now they're all coming to me and asking why are they not being paid. I really appreciate that. Yeah, but now I'd like to welcome the second opposition speaker to continue. The second opposition speaker to continue the case or team opposition. Here.
So am I clear and audible to everyone currently? The reason why many people try to pursue debate is not only the fact that they can win a shiny trophy by going to a competition, it is also that they get the opportunity to finally actually learn public speaking. They have the opportunity to practice argumentation. They have the opportunity to practice extempore speech, which otherwise is very impossible in the alternative that the opponent proposes, which is casual debate. Realize that the opponent really hasn't done a good job of characterizing what casual debate truly looks like, right? We think casual debates usually talk about topics that are incredibly casual and don't really have substantial impact, such as things such as who should get the candy bar, such as why is this specific homework assignment dumb, and the argument with the teacher. This sort of casual debate doesn't have the benefits that our side has already told you, such as learning about world events, such as learning the actual techniques of argumentation, because these casual debates are completely casual. It doesn't make kids have to actually learn how to do these things in the first place. And that's why we think that competitive debates benefits are completely mutually exclusive. That's why opposition should really win today's debate. I'll just merely do two things in my speech. One, address the government's case and explain why all four of the contentions are just untrue. And then second of all, do a bit of rebuilding and explain why opposition should win. Okay, let's talk about government case, right? They have provided us 4 arguments. First argument, they told us that you're gonna have to invest so much time into it, and this is particularly harmful to kids, right? Notice that Connor has already flagged this argument, right? This is actually spending more time on debate itself means that you're receiving the benefits of spending time on debate. This means learning more about world issues. This means having more ability to practice debate as well as trying to practice your argumentation. But second of all, right, realize that Daniel has really just based his entire arguments off of Harvard, right? Notice that Harvard is a competition that takes place in North America, which means that most of the people who do go to this competition are from North America, which benefits them the most because of the fact that this time zone aligns with them. If we were to take place in a competition, say SASDO, this time zone would be perfect for people living in China and would be pretty bad for people living out of China, right? But third of all, right, even if these time investment, if we take their best case that this time investment is not that good for kids, realize that this time investment allows kids to practice time management. This means that they're more able to try to balance schoolwork as well as their ability to debate, right? This means that these students have more ability to try to balance, have more time as well as more experience in order to try to balance time as well as schedule their days. The second argument really told us that debate is just not fun anymore because of the fact that it's now competitive. First line of response, right? Yes, of course, this applies to literally every single competition because the point of going to a competition is to win, right? But realize that for most, and they tell you that the most of the fun from debating is that when you're actually trying to argue something ridiculous, right? But we think the most fun you get out of debating inside not only in competitions but also in casual debates is when you win. Therefore, it is much better. This incentivizes more individuals to try to get better at debate as well as learn more about the topic because they want to win in a competition. This winning guarantees them the most actual happiness for them, right? Therefore, more kids will try to learn more. More kids will try to practice their skills even more through debate, right? But third of all, even if this competition, even if let's just take the opponent's absolute best case, this competition is just no longer fun, right? More people will still debate because of the fact that when you're having these debate competitions in the first place, it's really big and official, right? Therefore, more individuals are actually inspired to do casual debates because of the fact that they look at this competitive debate and they think that, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Therefore, more individuals, such as in schools or also clubs, will begin to actually try to pursue debating as a sort of activity for most individuals to get. This actually claims a lot of the impacts we get on their side for casual debating. The third argument mainly tells us about self-consciousness, right? They tell you that after you lose, you feel that you suck. Notice, first of all, this happens in every single sport, right? If you lose a sport, it means that you don't feel good, right? This only incentivizes you to train harder. This only incentivizes you to try to get better at the moment, right? And second of all, right, this actually also trains people to try to accept defeat because of the fact that when you actually lose in a sport, you accept that there are times when you didn't do as well, right? Therefore, this actually prepares you for when you step out, when you go into college, when you go into outside to actually pursue a job, right? Because you're always going to try to experience defeat inside the status quo after you step out of school, right? Therefore, we think debating itself actually teaches kids so many things, including the fact that you can actually try to accept defeat, right? And then the fourth argument just mainly tells us that due to the competitive nature completely dominates casual debates, right? But realize that our side could also have casual debates, right? It's not like every single debate is just automatically competitive. You're not trying to compete with your mom and dad about whether this homework assignment, whether your overdue homework assignment is really a good thing or is a bad thing, right? But taking the absolute best case that this actually does remove casual debates, we still think that this still guarantees most kids will be able to learn about current events. Most kids will still be able to practice the skills that they get through debate. Now let's move on to a bit of rebuilding, right? Let's examine what they told us as responses to our points. They mainly told us as a response to encouraging world news. They tell us that it is not mutually exclusive, right? Classes still exist, casual debates still exist, but realize that the exclusiveness of competitive debate is that it is competitive. It is incredibly serious. The topics that they delve into are incredibly serious and are happening in the status quo today, right? For example, when I still did PF, there are multiple topics such as nuclear policy, such as PAS, which I had no idea exists in the status quo today. But after when you actually start researching these things, you realize that these topics aren't just a shallow name, but also go much deeper, right? This allows more kids themselves to actually have different perspectives on a lot of issues and become global citizens because of the fact that now they can consider both sides of an argument. Now they can think of both sides and not just think one-sided. This actually helps most individuals in real life because now they allow themselves to receive both ends of an argument and be more understanding to individuals, right? And their response to our practical to children is that debate is not a mandatory sport, right? This is because debate is still not considered a sport, while it really should, because of the fact that debate still exercises your mental mind, right? Even if it is harder than sports, it is a commitment that most people should make in order to make debate more fun for them. So proud to oppose.
I'd like to thank the second opposition speaker for that speech. Now I'd like to invite the opposition whip to close the case for team opposition. Hear, hear.
I will begin my speech by analyzing the main clash point of today's debate, which I believe is like the actual benefits of going to a debate tournament, attending competitive debate, right? So our case is basically saying that there's benefits like critical thinking skills and researching skills, and the opponent's response to it is that it's emotionally draining. So we have already provided a few responses to this. Firstly, we believe that there are a lot of long-term benefits to competitive debate and that it's mutually exclusive. I don't think the opponents have really responded on the benefits of the debate. All they say is like on the comparative, like the mental trauma is more emotionally draining. So a few responses to this, right? So first of all, we believe like in our worst case and their best case, we believe it's actually somewhat acceptable for an individual to accept some level of mental and physical trauma in exchange for knowledge, right? Winning a debate tournament or just going and breaking at a big debate tournament is a very big deal. And if you're physically drained for that, at least, first of all, you learn a lot of knowledge that's like applicable to all sorts of subjects. And secondly, you get that experience, right? Like we believe that's inherently good thing, but we don't but like in the actual status quo, we believe that like panic attacks and anxiety attacks, as well as like debate being emotionally draining, is now like much more rare. It actually doesn't really happen that much. So we believe like our points on like long-term benefits outweigh their points on mental anxiety, which we believe is rare. And the second response was to like the tournament hosts who make a lot of money. Now, like we believe that like, okay, if you're like, I mean, earning all sorts of money is physically draining, right? Like working in the company and earning money is physically draining. So if you choose to elect and go like judge or host a debate tournament, you know that it's going to be straining, right? And obviously the compensation for that is money, and we believe that's the way it should be, and it's good, right? Because people are earning money, right? The opponents have not responded to this, but the whole idea of mental trauma, which we still believe is very rare. So again, like we provide mutually exclusive benefits of competitive debating whilst and even if there is a small bit of trauma, we believe that it's completely justified because of the long-term benefits you get. Now, the second idea they bring up was the whole idea of casual debating, which was brought up in their DPM. So first of all, I would like to point out to the judge that it's like very weirdly mechanized, like on-site opposition. We're not too sure what casual debating is, like whether that is like going to learning leaders and debating, or like just arguing your friend, like who is better at debate, right? We don't see which one like it is, but like let's assume that it's the latter or former. Like wait, that actually doesn't really matter. First of all, we believe that casual debate, there's no incentive for like all of the long-term benefits of research and understanding. Second of all, it's definitely not mutually exclusive, right? Like casual debating, I would argue, is only seen more on our side of the house, like as Brendan has explained. So a quick comparison would reveal that serious debating has more structure and much more research and learning involved, which we believe is all good for like adolescents and young children, right? So, okay, overall, judge, we believe that like serious and competitive debating has a lot of benefits, and like our points, which state that they have a lot of long-term benefits to learning, long-term benefits to competitiveness. And also, we also had a point about like accessibility, right? Like how debate is much more accessible for individuals who are like, unlike sports, it's much more accessible for individuals who are poor. And we don't think the opponents have responded to that point at all. So I think on that, we could win the debate just by that. But overall, judge, we believe like competitive debating has a lot of benefits to a child's learning, a child's outlook on the world. And although it's stressing at times, we're willing to concede that has a lot of benefits that lasts much longer and has much more benefits than the actual stress itself. And so for all of these reasons above, I'm so proud to oppose.
I'd like to thank the opposition whip for that speech. Now I'd like to invite the government whip to close the case for team government and close the debate as a whole. Hear, hear.
Before I enter my whip speech, allow me to restate the motion. This House regrets the rise of competitive debating. It is not a debate about whether or not competitive. This is not a motion on this House believes competitive debating is good or this House believes competitive debating is bad. It is a motion regarding the rise of competitive debating, and this is exactly what we have opposed. We on government has specifically regretted the rise in competitive debate and the domination of competitive debate in the status quo. Opposition has argued endlessly that competitive debate is good and how there's so many benefits of it. We have firstly demonstrated how the time requirement, the mental strain, and the detriment to self-confidence are all significant downsides to competitive debate. And secondly, even if you, judge, don't buy that, that is fine. We're still able to prove that the current dominance of competitive debates and extinction of casual debates is extremely detrimental to not only debaters, but also debate as an activity. When debate becomes only competitive and not casual anymore, we believe that all the benefits of casual debate would disappear. All the benefits of casual debate disappear, and what you have left is a bunch of like just sweaty people arguing whether in person or on the internet about things that likely won't even connect to them, won't even be applicable to them. Right? At its core, a debate is a means to respectfully disagree over certain topics. But when that means to respectfully disagree is turned into a competitive sport, the respectful disagreement oftentimes just turns into a personal argument with all the associated harms. We have, throughout our case, opposed this rise of competitive debate and the extinction of casual debate. The opposition has said over and over again that firstly, learning about world news is a benefit of competitive debate, but they've never proven why knowing about all of these topics and going down this rabbit hole and putting yourself in far more stress about the world for knowledge that will likely never be applicable in real life is good. They have also repeatedly said that casual debates are about motions which are far more local. Yet again, they provide no explanation for why being able to argue better on a daily basis on topics you're more likely to actually need to argue over in real life is bad, right? They've also said over and over again that we have not substantiated what casual debates are. I think it's frankly just quite simple. You take the competitiveness out of a debate. It's a debate that's not happening in these organized tournaments. It could be a debate that happens in real life, could be a debate that happens in like a class, etc. We believe that those are all examples of good casual debates. Now, overall, opposition states many impacts which lack crucial links to their importance and why these impacts are even harmful in the first place. Also, they have also additionally not been able to prove the dominance of competitive debate in the status quo has its benefits. We, on the other hand, have proven how the rise in competitive nature of debate leads to all these harms of competitive debate, whether it be taking up time from students who need it for doing homework instead of wasting their time researching about topics that will likely never be applicable, whether it be destroying their self-confidence in terms of debate by basically making them feel like they're intellectually just bad, and by making them have to deal with the humiliation of losing to someone, not just physically but also mentally, right? We also believe that it also has the associated harms of damages to the casual debates as a whole. When competitive debate is dominant in today's society, we never even think about casual debates in the first place. When people say debates, they always think of the big debate organizations such as SBSDC, SASDO, WSDC, etc. They never think about those debates we have on a daily basis, these debates that we have where we respectfully disagree with one another on topics that are actually applicable. We also believe that this also damages debate as a sport. We believe that fundamentally this over-competitiveness makes debate far more optimized than it needs to be, and all in all ruins the fun associated with sports, ruins the fun associated with debates. For all of these reasons above, for the sake of debate as a whole, we are so proud to propose in today's motion. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for that wonderful debate. Now I would welcome both teams to cross floors and shake hands virtually, and just wait here and while the judges go deliberate within the Gov prep room. So Andrew and Joey, I hope you heard that. We're going to the government prep room in order to deliberate. Yeah, so please stay here and I will get the award ceremony started.